Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the DLF Trade Show and the DLF YouTube channel. Russ and Addison here to show you how awesome DynastyLeagueFootball.com with its trade finder and trade analyzer can help you just be awesome, because I said awesome before and I was going to say awesome again, and I'm going to say awesome probably a few times throughout the show because Addison's awesome, I'm awesome, the show is awesome, 2026 firsts are pretty awesome. Because that's what
you're awesome.
Some of you are awesome. The rest of you are super awesome.
Wow.
Gotcha. Bam. I hate when people do that. Like, did you like it? No, I didn't like it. I loved it.
Classic. I do that sometimes.
You're the worst. But yeah, like I just said, we are here. We did last week, I should say. Last week we talked about 25 first, so the natural progression in life is 26 first. And no, we are not doing 27 firsts next week. So, see, I told you some of you weren't awesome.
And the 27 firsts are not even in the trade finder. So, couldn't if we wanted to.
Even if we wanted to, we couldn't. But yeah, we're here to talk about 2026 first because, again, these are in both directions. It's something that is very easy to use if you're competing and you want to bolster your team a little bit using that 26 first, which is 2 years out. And again, this is Dynasty. So if you're good this year, chances are you'll be good next year. So you figure it's going to be late anyway. Or if you're rebuilding, or at least you didn't make the playoffs and there's other rebuilding teams in your league and they've already soaked up all the 25s, maybe you start going after the 26s, which will have better quarterbacks at least.
Yeah. I think that's the big one is when you get to this time of year, it seems like everybody, your league has already doled out their available 2025 firsts and seconds and everything like that. So 2026 from a rebuilding standpoint is a good place to start. If not even 2027. I mean, we're not going to do 2027, but I'd rather get a 27 first than a 26 second or something like that for any kind of player.
First, they're always better than seconds, but even still, don't trade 3 years out. That's just too far. It's just 2 months, at least for MFL. 2 months, you'll get your 27 firsts. Just calm down a little bit.
I think we'll get 28 firsts in February, won't we?
No, we do 2 years out. So right now you have 25 and 26.
Oh, you do 2 years out. Okay. A couple of my other leagues do 3 years. So I've already had 27s at my disposal.
It would be too dangerous for me because I would instantly sell those the second someone wanted them because I'm like, I don't know what's going on in 3 years. Whatever, that's fine.
Fair.
It saves me from myself only doing 2 years out, I guess. We're talking 26, so let's see what 26 firsts are valued at. The first one we are talking our quarterback. Oh, yeah, that's right, because we're doing it by position. So we're talking quarterbacks. 12-team superflex. The first trade we have is CJ Stroud and DJ Moore for Baker Mayfield, a 25 first and a 26 first. I have an opinion that is about to happen after I read these numbers. CJ Stroud 834.7, DJ Moore 316 for a total of 1150.7. Baker Mayfield 361, a 25 first 350, 26 first 235 for a total of 945. Can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's that big of a difference between Baker Mayfield and CJ Stroud.
Yes. I literally, as I was showing this trade, I was like, boy, I can't wait to hit Russ with my take that CJ Stroud is the most overvalued quarterback in Dynasty Fantasy Football.
I can't trade him away. I have one league where I tanked and I tanked well. Oh, yeah, it's Trade Addicts 11. I have CJ Stroud, Caleb Williams, and Kyler Murray. I can't trade Stroud at all.
Do you want Geno? I'll give you Geno for him.
No thanks.
You said you can't trade him. I offered you a trade, so that one was on you.
That's on me. That's on me. I did not specify. Anything about value. That's fair. That's fair. That's all on me. That being the case, I still do this. I still sell, like, DJ Moore is a 27-year-old wide receiver who's going to be 28. And if you're rebuilding, Baker only 29, by the way, still plenty of years for a quarterback, especially since he's really just hitting his stride anyway. Getting a mid-first this year and a first next year, I think I would do this. Like if I had Stroud, if we're talking TA 11, and I'm at the end of again, I guess not necessarily because I have 3 quarterbacks already, but if I have CJ Stroud and I'm looking to push back, a year or two, I would do this. I think I would send Stroud and someone like DJ Moore for Baker and 2 firsts, because I think it sets you up to get out of your rebuild a little faster by having someone like Baker, and then draft that 25 first and trade that 26 first for something else that'll help you push out of your rebuild faster if you want, or just ride it out for 2 years, because again, at 31, Baker Mayfield's still going to be an insanely viable quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that 25 first, I looked it up. They were the first or second team out of the playoffs. Now that playoffs are officially upon us, I know who's in and who's out.
So it's like 105-ish. That's
yeah.
good.
They were it's a top 5 or 6 pick,
which might even be a quarterback this year. So
it might be a quarterback. It might be a solid replacement for DJ Moore. At the wide receiver position, it could be an Abuka, or maybe Luther Burden falls down that far, or Trey Harris, somebody like that. So you could basically replace DJ Moore with a younger rookie, which could help, either your rebuild along, or maybe if that rookie starts to be productive, then you get the production out of that rookie. You get Baker Mayfield's production over CJ Stroud right now, and you're really not losing all that much in terms of age, and you get the extra 2026 first on top of it. I feel like it's pretty rare that you and I both disagree on a trade that is 200 points off in the analyzer. But I think the Baker Mayfield side is the right call on this one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward for December ADP to come out to see, because there's no excuse. Again, Stroud's not bad. He just isn't elite the way he got boosted after last year. He was QB1 on Keep Trade Cut at one point, and then at least thankfully dropped to 4 after a while.
Well, he's still 7 right now, and Baker's 15. So that is a gap.
Yeah, that they should both. Baker's never going to pass Stroud just because of there is a 6-year age difference, and because of what we've seen Stroud do and how long it took Baker to do what he's doing. Baker's going to be Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff. One of these players that, since they didn't do it right away, their value will never catch up because, well, they were bad at one point.
Yeah. And it feels like he's more tied to the talent of the receivers that he's throwing to, which I don't agree with that's the case, but I feel like that's kind of the vibe around Baker, is that you remove weapons from his team. Not saying that they're going to be removed, but just saying that if anything were to happen, that he would fall off. Yeah. Because of the weapons around him, but he's kind of proven that that's not really the case. And meanwhile, CJ Stroud is actually that quarterback. His numbers without Nico this year were horrible, and that was still with Diggs and with Tank Dell, and Joe Mixon was doing phenomenal. Stroud seems at this point in his career, which it makes sense. He's still basically a year and a half into his NFL career, but it seems like he is more tied to his elite talents at wide receiver than Baker Mayfield is right now.
Yeah, I guess we just didn't realize. Again, we didn't really realize how good Nico was last year, and Tank Dell was playing out of his mind, which will, absolutely help a quarterback. All right, let's move on to the next trade. Bryce Young traded for a 26 first and a 25 mid-second. Bryce Young, this needs to catch up, only at 94.2. Caution Team B is giving up the highest value asset, the most pieces in the deal. 26 first is 235. The mid-second is 128 for a total of 363. So Bryce Young's value has to go up with the way he's playing the past few weeks. The problem is, I don't know when those mocks started to know if this is even to be taken into account. I don't know, man. I think I do this, especially if my team's good, or that first is from a good team, not even necessarily saying 110 to 112, but let's say I'm rebuilding and I happen to have the first of a middling team, and I could add Bryce Young to my rebuild while still holding on to my 26 first. I love that. That's very specific. But knowing that pretty sure Arch is going to be in the 26 class, right?
Yes.
If I'm rebuilding and I send my first and it doesn't work out, and I pretty much just traded Arch Manning for Bryce Young, that's going to make me want to cry a little bit, even if Bryce Young does step up. Because again, just like Baker, Bryce Young's value is never going to go as high as it ever should if it does feel that, if he does play to that level,
Mhm.
just because of how upset people are at what happened for the first 2 years of his career, or year and change. And that's also assuming he continues to keep playing like this. But I do love the idea of going and acquiring Bryce Young, because I always had faith that he was good. Like I have not sold. I don't believe I've sold any of my Bryce Young shares just because I wasn't going to sell on this dip.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard to sell on a quarterback that was the starter, then got benched for a veteran. I feel like it was just very easy to assume that he was going to get a role at some point. Whether that was in Carolina again, or if he had to go somewhere else. Like people were saying that, the Dolphins should trade for him, the Rams should trade for him, and kind of like groom him up as their long-term plans, a la like what the Packers did with Love, and what the Falcons feel like they're doing with Penix and stuff like that, and just kind of build back Young's confidence, then throw him back out there, like kind of like what Baker did, more or less. That being said, though, I feel like I would still cash out on Bryce Young for a first. I think a first right now is hefty still for the downside and the risk that he possesses, let alone a first and a mid. That's like the 204, I think, if I remember correctly. So
getting a first plus,
like
even if it is 26, is pretty impressive for Bryce Young right now.
Yeah, and on KTC, he's valued inside the top 24 again. He's QB 23. So if we were to kind of translate that over to analyzer values, that would put him around the 220 mark. So,
yeah, okay. And then you're overpaying because it's 2 for 1. You're overpaying because it's a QB without one coming back. That definitely does equal it out much, much nicer than it is right now. Would I do it? No. Is it the right move? Yeah. Like taking that first, because Bryce Young could have 2 bad games and then his value tanks again.
We're right back into it again of like, Bryce is actually not.
And as we always say, future firsts are always going to gain value the closer you get to them being on the clock. So that value is not going down anytime soon. So yeah, you're right. The smart move is, if you can get especially a first plus, it doesn't matter the year, for Bryce Young, I think you take it.
Yeah. And on the flip side, I think if you are a person that still believes in Bryce Young, I'm okay with taking the risk. I just don't think I would take that risk with a first round pick.
So you wouldn't just send a 26 first? Would you send a 27 first for Bryce Young?
No, I'd keep the 27 first. But I would like if you had some other kind of top 25-ish quarterback, like a Kirk Cousins or a Matt Stafford, or who else is in here? Maybe it's Penix or somebody like that. Like if you believed in Bryce Young,
like Penix, just because of the situation that Penix is in.
Yeah, but like somebody I think in that range, Geno, using that quarterback and then adding to that quarterback, I think is fine, rather than and replacing effectively the first with that quarterback.
Yeah, like if this team made the playoffs and Bryce is their QB2, you could be like, hey man, Stafford in the second for Bryce.
Yeah. I think that's a way better bet on Bryce Young if you're going for it than to give up your first round pick.
Yep, agreed. Okay, that's cool. Running backs, 12 team, 2 quarterback. Okay. Joe Mixon for 26 first and 26 second. Joe Mixon, 153.3. Caution, Team B is giving up the highest value asset, the most pieces in the deal, because a 26 first is still 235 and a 26 second is 74.8 for a total of 309.8. You have to give a first to get Joe Mixon right now. I still don't want to, but
you've got to.
I think I would. I would also be thrilled. I don't care if it's 26. I'd be thrilled to get a first and a second for Joe Mixon if I didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, that's a perfect way to put this deal, is that if you are trying to buy Joe Mixon as a contender right now, you have to give up a first. And that's like minimum. Which I agree with you. I feel like I would be okay with, because if you're that much of a contender, you're thinking that you're going to be a contender again next year. Hopefully it's 110 to 1. Ideally it's 112 next year.
Yeah.
And if that's your second, then that's 212, which is totally fine a year out from now. So I would pay that for Joe Mixon if you were that much of a contender. I wouldn't do it if you were like, oh, I just kind of like got the 6th seed. and if I get Joe Mixon, I'm going to make the run. That's probably not where I want to do it.
No, more of like I lost McCaffrey or I have Breece Hall and I'm terrified that he's going to be out.
Right. Yeah, that kind of thing where it doesn't really feel like it's hurting, or you're putting too much of your team's future into a 28-year-old running back,
Yeah.
But on the flip side, again, I do agree with what you said, where if you did not make the playoffs and you had Joe Mixon and a contender offering you a first and a second, boy, what a freaking cash out.
Yeah.
For a player like Joe Mixon. That's great.
Yeah. Ooh, speaking of McCaffrey, the next one's 12-team one quarterback, Christian McCaffrey for a 26 first and Jaylen Warren. Christian McCaffrey 480.8, 26 first, 256.4, Jaylen Warren 82.1 for a total of 338.5. I get it. It's a very tough spot with Christian McCaffrey and his value, but I still think I want a better running back than Jaylen Warren coming back.
So you agree that CMC should be definitely over a first?
Yeah, he has to be because he'll come back next year and he'll still be Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, that's my opinion too.
The question, okay, so I think it's very difficult to even get a deal like this. I know the person trading McCaffrey away wanted a better running back than Jaylen Warren coming back as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's such a hard sell right now to get rid of Christian McCaffrey for any real value. So getting a first plus is in fact a win. Because once a 28, 29-year-old running back goes into the non-point scoring season, you're not getting much value for them anyway. Like, I can guarantee you're going to see Saquon Barkley go for late firsts once the non-point scoring season runs, just because he's a 28, 29-year-old running back. It doesn't matter what he just did. Mm-hmm. If anything, that makes his value go down.
Yeah. So especially for CMC when he's coming off of a year where he didn't even really play.
Yeah.
And it was all injury reasons.
I have two shares of Christian McCaffrey right now. They're both on competing teams. I haven't been able to actually sit down and try and see what I can do with it. I was waiting for the playoffs to finally be set so I can look at the teams I should really try and take advantage of. Well, teams I should go and try and make offers to. That was very poorly worded, or not, I guess, depending on what trades I can pull off. But like, I offered a Christian McCaffrey deal to the Saquon manager who did not make the playoffs, and they were interested in the idea and were not calling McCaffrey a 1 year or like a dead asset. Like, they were still considering him a long-term asset as well. They just happened to like Saquon better. And I'm like, I get that. Sure. Like, now I get it. So the deal just didn't get done. I think in the long run, if you're trading the injured player to replace the injured player, this is something that you're going to have to settle with if you want that first also. I don't think Jaylen Warren is long-term play. He's 26 in a committee that isn't going to change. To me, this is, I'm still competing, but so let me get Jaylen Warren to put in my lineup, and then maybe I'll do something with a first to help my lineup in another way. If that's the case, then I think I like this better, if that's my line of thinking.
Yeah, I also wondered, too, if maybe the team that had CMC tried to be a contender without him, and then they were like, oh, once we got I just need to like be 500 by the time he comes back, and then he'll come back, and then I'll win 3 games. I'll get into the playoffs, and then he got hurt. They probably didn't make the playoffs, and now they might be looking at, well, my team wasn't good enough without CMC, so I probably need to just start rebuilding this a little bit, and then that's probably where this trade ended up going. I do agree that I think that if you are trying to buy CMC right now, the most likely scenario is that he was already on a contender, a team that's in the playoffs right now, and they probably want some sort of production coming back better than Jaylen Warren. I mean, it could be. I mean, I don't even know. It was like Chuba right now, I feel like would be more.
I was going to say Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs level, like, because they're older and scoring points. So like maybe even that. Man, I didn't realize Jaylen Warren was 26 already. I feel like he's been older for 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start talking about running backs. But of course we go to wide receivers, and the first person you make me talk about is Jayden Reed.
Yep. Moment of silence for us.
I mean, I wasn't going to move on in SFB anyway, but he really just stuck the landing in my non-competing. I mean, I love bagels and all, just not in my fantasy football lineups. All right, so wide receivers, 26 first, 12 team, 1 quarterback. Well, this is a wild one. Jayden Reed and Ray Davis for a 26 first, 25 early second, David Njoku and Elijah Moore. Free agent Elijah Moore. Jayden Reed, 482. Ray Davis, 90 for a total of 572. 26 first, 256. An early 25 second is 170. Njoku, 157. Moore, 25 for a total of 609. Is Jayden Reed anything special to you still?
No.
It's so sad. I came into the season pretty psyched about him. Not that he would be some alpha or some elite asset or anything, but I just felt he was the best wide receiver in that group. And maybe he is, but it really doesn't matter. It really just doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't imagine giving up a first, a second, Njoku, and Elijah Moore. I mean, I like the idea of Ray Davis, but
he's a handcuff. He's a very good handcuff.
A handcuff's handcuff because the real running back one is still Josh Allen, as we've seen.
That is fair. Yeah.
So, yeah, like this is very, very easily the pick side for me. Even without any sort of tight end premium, David Njoku is still a positional advantage, I think. Enough that I want to put him in my tight end spot and not have to worry about it anymore. Jayden Reed, I mean, yeah, I put him in my lineup and I don't really think about it. You're not often going to get a 0 out of him, 1 target for no receptions. Like that's an anomaly, but this just feels like a lot for a not sure thing.
Elijah Moore is averaging 3 PPR points per game more than Jayden Reed since Jameis Winston took over.
Oh, nice. And again, free agent, baby.
Yeah, I still really like Elijah Moore. It's pretty fun to see him do well.
Yeah.
I'm just not doing this for Jayden Reed. I talked about him in a video that when you're watching this dropped yesterday as kind of like lessons learned from the past week. So I kind of discussed the Jayden Reed donut. And I think we just need to come to terms with the type of player that he is, and what that is right now is not a top 25 dynasty wide receiver. So I think it's hard to send a first round pick for a wide receiver kind of valued between wide receiver 25 to 30, and let alone to add on a second and a very startable tight end and a wide receiver that as of this moment is the same age and more productive than Jayden Reed and has his ability to kind of decide his own future. Like you've said twice now, free agent Elijah Moore. That, I think that's really hard to do for a wide receiver that you just cannot trust on a consistent basis. Is he like just younger Deebo Samuel? Is that where we're at with him?
No, because I don't know, like Deebo Samuel, and I know you don't mean play style wise, but Deebo Samuel has a ceiling, always had a ceiling that Jayden Reed doesn't have. And maybe that is just because of his play style or the offense he was in. But like one wide receiver, or if George Kittle didn't play, Deebo's having himself a week. Feels like Jayden Reed could be the only active wide receiver, and he still has a chance of only putting up 3 points.
Yeah, and Tucker Kraft and Josh Jacobs score 4 touchdowns that week.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Jayden Reed was the wide receiver 4 through the first 4 weeks of the season.
Now, so I pulled up the values chart. Like, what if we switched out Jayden Reed for either Tyreek Hill or Ladd McConkey, like 2 players in very opposite situations, but still scoring points?
My brain broke once again, just because I don't know how to value. I think the easy answer is yes, you do this for McConkey. I don't think I do this for Tyreek Hill. His production of the past 2 weeks has been super encouraging, that he's kind of coming back to being Tyreek.
That's kind of why I thought to throw his name in there, besides the fact he's literally right next to McConkey.
Yeah, but still, like packaging a whole lot of this for the hope that Tyreek remains that way for the next 4 weeks. And then again, that carries into 2025 when he's going to be like 31 or something like that. That just seems 32.
I think so. I mean, whatever, really, but
or worse. But yeah, I don't know if I would do that for Tyreek at the current moment. Yeah, he'll be 31. He turns 31 in March.
Yeah, there's not a lot of wide receivers in this exact area. We either have to go too high up or too low down, and like saying Chris Olave doesn't really help. And then moving up, there's Jalen Waddle and T. Higgins and JSN, which feels like a different level.
Yeah, I do this easily for all three of those guys.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, we're all on the pick side. Let's move on. Oh, next one, straight up, Cooper Kupp for a 26 first. How's Cooper Kupp scoring lately?
Did you see the touchdown that he caught on Sunday night?
Well, a touchdown's a touchdown, but yeah, he had one bad game, but otherwise, ever since coming back from injury, 16, 21, 15, 28, 24, 20. Everyone's allowed to have one bad game. Averaging 18.4 points per game, just 0.6 less than his teammate Puka.
Yep. And that's the wide receiver 4 in the season in points per game.
Yes. So yeah, I do this for Cooper Kupp. I want to win.
Think so.
It's worth it.
Yeah, it's the Joe Mixon argument, right? Where it's just like if you have Cooper Kupp and you didn't make the playoffs, I feel like getting a 26 first for him is very good return. Yeah. But if you're in the playoffs and you need that wide receiver, I would pay the first round pick for Cooper Kupp and just go win your championship.
Yep.
Easy.
Speaking of, this next one is a little easy for me, even though it's 12. We're moving on to tight ends, by the way. It's 12 teams, super flex, no tight end premium. The trade is a 26 first for Jonnu Smith and a 26 second. I pretty much easily send a first for Jonnu in a second.
I was not going to initially include this trade as I was scrolling through. I was just trying to see which tight end trades there were. And I was initially not going to include this one because I thought that trading a first for Jonnu right now, even given the production that he's had recently, just did not feel right.
I think the second back is the only reason I would do it, because like you can tell me that this is 12 picks apart, I'd think about it. If you can tell me that there's a chance it's 6, Jonnu's producing really well. Okay, well, first of all, 26 second is 75. Jonnu Smith 46 for a total of 121, and 26 first is 235. But again, we need Jonnu to catch up a little bit on this. He's not going to skyrocket or anything, but he can put himself close to 100 points, or at least worth that 75 that a second is.
I mean, on Keep Trade Cut, he's still only the tight end 15. That still seems low.
He's 29, which I get for some people that's a lot, but for a tight end it's not. But he's also insanely athletic and very fast on an offense, I should say, that insanely values fast and athletic. So like he fits in perfectly. He's the tight end they've been looking for. I don't think it's any sort of mistake or lightning in a bottle or any other thing you want to say. I don't think this is wrong. I think this is his production. I think this is what he is. Of course, he had to do it in a very scary fashion this past week and wait until overtime to pretty much catch a pass.
All of his production came in overtime.
He had one catch in the fourth quarter.
Did he?
One catch for 20 yards in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. So I had him in my DraftKings lineup, and I had a big old 0 the entire game.
Yep.
And then I watched the overtime, and it was like, all right, 15-yard screen pass to Jonnu, 20-yard screen pass to Jonnu, 20-yard screen pass to Jonnu. Oh, touchdown. Oh, cool. 15 fantasy points or whatever. I was like, sweet.
Yep. He was also in my SFB lineup, so yeah, I was watching.
Yeah, I feel like Jonnu is closer to flash in the pan territory than this is what he is, just given his age still. That I just don't think I would pay a first round pick. But this happened multiple times. As I was going through the trade find, that's why I was saying like initially was not going to throw this in here, but it happened multiple times since the start of the month that he's been traded for a first has been traded for Jonnu and a second, or a Jonnu and something that in my opinion is kind of equivalent to a second. That's just kind of how it is. And I was like, okay, well, apparently this is happening. So we had to talk about it. I just don't think I have the ability to spend a first round pick for Jonnu plus something.
I sent Kyle Pitts for Jonnu in a 25 second in one of my.
That feels like a win. I'm on board with that. Because I also don't. I feel like at this point, Pitts is also not really equivalent to a first.
So
He was for about 4 or 5 weeks during the middle of the year. He was.
I'm not giving up on Pitts. It's just I really want to win this. I need to win a trade addicts league. I really, really, really do. So I'm willing to make short-term moves and figure it out later, how to fix it later. All right, so let's move on to the next trade, which is 12-team 1 quarterback. Mark Andrews and Grant Calcaterra for a 26 first. Mark Andrews worth 229. Aw, Grant Calcaterra worth 0 for a total of 229. The 26 first worth 256.4. So I mean, this is even enough.
I've been pleasantly happy with his production over the past like 2 months.
Yeah, so going back to week 10, 23, 6, 19, 23, and then bye week. And even before that, there was a 6-point game, 18, 23, 17. Yeah, after that really, really bad, slow start, he has absolutely, okay, I'll take that. Yeah, I'll send a first for Mark Andrews right now.
Yeah.
Again, he's 29, which I don't think is old for a tight end. I don't care. I'm still on the Travis Kelce bandwagon. If anything, I just don't think he wants to get hurt anymore, so he doesn't play as crazy as he used to. But I don't think his age has anything to do with it. So a 29-year-old tight end, you're still going to get 2-3 years of prime peak. That's the word, peak production out of that, because that's 29 to 31, I think, is what tight end peak was.
I think it's like range. 27 to 31 ish is somewhere in there.
Yeah. Because wide receivers 27 to 29. That's why I went from 29 to 31. Like, they have to be after each other. They can't happen at the same time in my brain. That's how it works. Yeah, I would give a first for Mark Andrews. But again, also, if I'm rebuilding, I think in a non-premium league, I think I sell Mark Andrews for a first. And sorry, Grant Calcaterra, you're not really coming into this value-wise.
Sorry, Grant. I mean, he was really good. He's been good this year in Dallas Goedert's place.
He's fine. I don't want to depend on him in the playoffs, but he's been fine.
Well, no, but I mean, if your tight end option is Grant Calcaterra without Dallas Goedert, or it's like, Chig, I feel like
Grant Calcaterra.
I feel like I'd go with Grant Calcaterra. Yeah, I would still pay a first for Mark Andrews. I know a lot of people are concerned about the production that he's had this year has been more touchdown related, but when hasn't Mark Andrews' production really been touchdown related? It's
always been efficiency.
It's just that the way that offense goes, it's like when you get down into the red zone, before they had Derrick Henry, it was, hey, I'm going to find Mark Andrews. And now that they have Derrick Henry, it's either, well, we're going to run the ball with Derrick Henry, or we'll just throw the ball to Mark Andrews. Like, we'll just fall back on original plan A, which is find Mark Andrews in the end zone. And it works a decent amount of time. So I would still pay a first-round pick for Andrews. I think the other thing that comes into play, at least for this trade specifically, is that it's a 1 quarterback league. So that, if that is a mid to later first round pick in a 1 QB league, that is definitely not the same as a super flex league. So it makes you feel better about the opportunity cost of the rookie that you'd be missing out on versus Mark Andrews.
Yeah. The end. Yes, that is the last trade on our sheet. So go get some 26 first, or if you have a 26 first and you're competing, go send your 26 first. Like, I think you've seen that there's plenty of ways you can use it to make your team better. So go do that. No matter what better means, whether it means more points or less points. This has been the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ Fisher at Dynasty. Just let it go, man. It happens. There's no taking it back. Russ Fisher, Dynasty Outhouse. Addison Hayes, @MazeHayes_. We'll catch you next time.